Hello class, good morning. So today our topic is weather disturbances. So there are different weather disturbances here in the Philippines. So we experience tropical cyclones, monsoons, and other weather disturbances such as thunderstorm, easterly waves, and the intertropical convergence zone or the ITC. So there are three major types of storms, and that is hurricane, cyclone, and typhoon. Let's talk first with tropical cyclone, a low pressure area that forms in the tropics over the sea and ocean, then we call it tropical cyclone. And cyclones differ, it depends on their area of origin. If the cyclone has sustained winds of 74 miles per hour in the North Atlantic Ocean, Caribbean Sea, Gulf of Mexico, or in the eastern North Pacific Ocean, then we call it hurricane. So this is an example of a picture of a cyclone. Then the eye of the cyclone is of course in the middle. Then cyclone if this form in ancient sea, and typhoon if its origin is in the western Pacific. So the Pacific Ocean, which is located between the Philippines and the Marianas and Caroline Islands, is where the typhoon forms, and this greatly affect our country. So how do tropical cyclone develop? So over a broad area where a cyclone forms, the water is warmer than the surrounding area. Its temperature is higher than 26 degrees Celsius. The warmer moist air above it rises, creating a low pressure area, and the wind from the surrounding area spirals counterclockwise due to the Coriolis effect in the northern hemisphere as it flows into the low pressure area, while the wind moves clockwise in the southern hemisphere. But this low pressure area can dissipate if the wind will weaken it. So the rising warm moist air at the center expands again in the presence of the overlying atmosphere, thereby cooling the rising air. Rising moist air cools and causes condensation of the moisture in the air, releasing large amount of heat. So the warm air that rises in this area is called the eye of the typhoon. So, what are the conditions needed to form a hurricane? First, there must be a continuous supply of rising moist air. That is just the same with tropical cyclone. How do tropical cyclone develop? So, there must be an abundance of warm seawater to continuously feed the rising air with moisture. Heat is necessary to make the water warmer to turn it into water vapor. The temperature of the ocean water should be about 80 degrees Fahrenheit or 27 degrees Celsius to form a hurricane. So those are the conditions needed in order to form a hurricane. But unless these conditions are maintained, the wind will weaken and the low pressure area will dissipate. So, ibig sabihin nito, there is a chance na matunaw yung low pressure area at hindi magkaroon ng hurricane. So, wind speed will increase when there is a continuous supply of energy. Air at the center must also rise high enough, and the exit of air above must be continuous to permit a continuous flow of rising air from below. So, eye of the typhoon, it is the center of the typhoon. The winds move forward the center in a counterclockwise direction. In the northern hemisphere, the area covered by the eye of the typhoon will not feel the strong winds, but the lining of the eye, that is the area where they can feel, okay, intense rainfall, cumulonimbus clouds, and produces the strongest winds of a typhoon. So, hindi yung mismong ay hindi yung mismong ay ng bagyo ang makakaranas ng malakas na ulan at matinding hangin, bagkus yun ay ang eye wall. Okay? Ang nasa eye wall ang makakaranas ng intense rainfall, cumulonimbus clouds, and strongest winds. How are tropical cyclone classified? We call it depression if when rotating wind has a maximum speed of 60 km per hour or no more than 60 km per hour, and storm if it is 60 to 118 km per hour, and typhoon when the maximum speed is greater than 100 km per hour. So those are the difference. Depression not more than 60 km, storm 60 to 128, and typhoon more than 100 60 to 118 for storm and 118 above for typhoon. How are hurricanes named or typhoon named? The World Meteorological Organization developed a system that gives names to hurricane. The names are arranged alphabetically and are used in revolving order. The origin of the formation where they hit was the one that was used in revolving order. So there is a prepared list of names. Okay? So female names were used exclusively in 1953. The use of woman's name is due to the common saying that a woman is fickle as the weather, and the practice of giving Filipino women's nicknames to all typhoons occurring within the Philippine area of responsibility was started in 1963 with the Weather Bureau. So, what are the advantages of using Filipino names? The Filipino names were more easily recognizable to most of the Filipino, especially in rural areas. It signifies the presence of the disturbance in the Philippine area of responsibility. And the third one is the Old Filipino alphabet has 19 characters, and this is equivalent to the annual average number of tropical cyclones occurring in the Philippine area of responsibility. So in page 296, you can see the revised list of names for tropical cyclones. So in column 1, these names will be used in 2016, 2020, 2024, and 2028. So for the first column, or it has 19 names, and there is auxiliary list. So we use auxiliary list when the number of typhoon occur in the Philippines is more than 19. That's the time that you will use the auxiliary names. So Pag-asa. Pag-asa is closely watching all depressions, storms, and typhoon spotted within the Philippine area of responsibility. Air pressure, wind speed, wind direction, air temperature, humidity, rainfall, and cloud cover are observed, and they use different weather instruments like air thermometer, rain gauge, barometer, and hygrometer. The other one is radar or radio detecting and ranging. Radar can detect the presence of typhoon even at the distance of several hundred kilometers.